Back everyone to another episode of Elevate Business Challenge. Ange McCabe here from Intuitive Performance, Workplace Training, Coaching and Facilitation. Here with my co-project producer, Marie Helen Ryder, co-owner of Nearby Planet VR. And today we have the pleasure of interviewing Matt Symes of Symplicity. And he's been nominated by Steve McCullen, the financial engineer.
Excellent.
Welcome,
Hello.
Matt. Hey,
Hi, Matt.
Hey.
Perfect. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, Matt?
That's a loaded question. I'll call myself a serial entrepreneur. Have an organizational design firm and also have ownership in a manufacturing company, a sign company, biotech, real estate, and an engineering firm, and a growing portfolio. So we help organizations at Symplicity improve, innovate, and grow, which sounds buzzy. But over the last 10 years, we've worked with 400 organizations and worked deeply with 55 of them, helping them navigate the world of crisis and scaling. Both are more difficult than anyone can imagine. So,
yeah, for sure. And what have you been doing during COVID?
Mostly trying to keep up. No, I mean, we immediately threw open the doors to our entry-level program and made it basically completely free online. And the reason for that is we know how hard it is to run a micro and small business. And most of the keys of leadership and management are locked behind paywalls and accessible only to larger organizations. And so we also know that small and micro businesses are the backbone of this economy. 49% of businesses, 49% of people rather, are employed by businesses with 10 or less. And that then means that those organizations were in full panic mode. And so we threw that wide open, and I think we really realized what this was going to be Monday the 16th and Wednesday the 18th, if I'm remembering correctly, we had our first webinar. And so since then, we've hosted 86 webinars for well over 3,000 people from across the world, actually, but the vast majority from Atlanta, Canada, where our bread and butter was, where our network was to begin with.
That sounds amazing.
We tried to help, and it's hard when you're all stuck in your house. And we tried to make sure that people could see that this is just cataclysmic change, but we're always facing change all the time. So, when we go in to help organizations, the organization itself needs to change. Normally the market is pretty stable, or at least just changing at a moderate speed, and the organization needs help. But when you're facing a pandemic, and a pandemic that hits service first, 80% of businesses in Canada are service-based businesses. So it hit service businesses, hit them hard, hit female entrepreneurs and female business leaders the hardest, because whether we like to admit this or not, and I think we're doing a good job here in the last couple of weeks of facing real facts, not the crap we tell ourselves. And the reality is this is harder on women because of the domestic roles that still exist. Mm-hmm. And, people can pretend that's not the case. Bullshit. It is the case. And so it's harder on service business, harder on women, harder on female leaders. And it's just harder on anybody to get their head around what's going on. Pandemic, slowing of economic growth, supply chains all out of whack, customers uncertain and therefore not buying. It just feels like chaos, and you can be paralyzed by that situation. And it's not that we have the answer to every business, but I do believe that we have a set of mental models and a set of questions to ask you that you can at least calm down and start to ask the right questions in the right order to get to a direction.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Matt, your tagline, make the world a better place, one organization at a time, starting in Atlanta, Canada. I think you're truly living your core values in your tagline there. Tell us more about that and how it came about.
Yeah, that it's funny when you say it, make the world a better place, one organization at a time, focused in Atlanta, Canada. When you say that, when we said that pre-pandemic, we got a lot of eye rolls. And that's okay. That's not for other people. That's for us. And that guides who we choose to work with. And we went back to that immediately upon trying to figure out how we were going to help. Right. I mean, I think there's some pretty good guiding principles as a person that you can live during this. And they were summed up by a Navy SEAL, but you know, they say this: when you feel overwhelmed, move the finish line. Right? When you're feeling powerless, take action. And when you're feeling alone, support someone. And so that Monday we came in and said, yeah, this is going to hit us hard. But the very first thing that we need to take a look at is why we exist and who we're helping. Mm-hmm. And how's it going to impact them. And we got it down to bite-sized activity on that Monday. And we actually had 35 core clients that we were working with that we had basically walked through the methodology and said, here are the likely things you're going to experience in the next 6 to 18 months. Because if you looked just one step below on all the literature, you knew right away that this, before a vaccine, this was just going to be it's just going to be hell to manage. And so while a lot of people were trying to compare this to 9/11, we almost immediately said, it's not 9/11. It's much bigger than 9/11. And it played out that way. So then how do we help everyone? So we got, by the Tuesday, we had 35 documents out to all of our clients that had worked with us in some way in the last 12 months and said, just as you're starting to think outside the box, we've done a little bit of thinking for you as well, and we're here to support you. And then we realized that there were 400 clients we had touched over the last 10 years. And we said, how do we get to them? And so that's when we threw it open and went wide open. And, you know, we got some wonderful feedback from it. And that was rewarding in and of itself. Mm-hmm. You know, there's some businesses who said, thank God, we knew that a smart group was going to help us through this and we could just get to working. Mm-hmm. And they attend it religiously, and it helped them as a daily, because once you get into this, you know, at the risk of transmitting here, but once you get into this, you got to get into a battle rhythm. You have to get into a routine by which you come out of the piece of work you're doing and look at the whole and then go back into that piece. And if you don't have a good system of doing that, you need to rely on an outside anchor to do that. And we became that outside anchor for a number of organizations for a good 8-week run, and said, okay. And then when we got past the 8-week run, we said, listen, like, you know, we're down to 15 or 20 of you that are showing up consistently. It's time to swim on your own, but we're here. And we're gonna now move to the idea of reopening. Mm-hmm. And that's where we've moved now, is, you know, because, you know, when you move to reopening, there's all kinds of safety considerations that no entrepreneurs ever thought about. Right. Yeah. And so that was our next move. Mm-hmm. And what we're doing now, helping a number of companies navigate that.
Mm-hmm. I have 2 questions that kind of came up in all of that. Fantastic information, Matt. So you said some really intriguing things in that almost within 4 days, your company had made the decision to mobilize in helping small to mid-sized businesses across Nova Scotia and organically turned nationally. So tell us a little bit more behind the scenes as to how that came about, by way of either motivation or know-how, knowledge. Like, what was it? What was the defining factor to act so quickly?
You hit on it when you opened up that last question. Why did we start this thing? Mm. Right. I mean, my father retired early from JDI as VP of Organizational Change. He had helped a number of the Irving organizations go through transformation. He had brought it from Procter and Gamble. And, you know, Procter & Gamble is one of the only 65 of so the Fortune 500 list came out in 1955. Of that Fortune 500, there are only 11% left, 65 of those companies. One of those is Procter & Gamble. My father's career took him to Grand Prairie, Alberta, which was a beta test facility for how they were transforming the organization. So he lucked into the methodology that we used. When my dad retired early and I left my PhD in the middle of my dissertation and my brother left his role to start this company, we decided we were going to do it with the right people for the right reasons. That was a guiding principle from the beginning. We didn't quite have that statement crafted yet, but we knew that what we do at its core is we're an engine. And unless we discriminate with that engine doesn't discriminate. It can make anything go faster, better with less resources, right? This toolkit has been responsible for some horrific things over the course of human history and some amazing things. So we knew we had an onus to do it for the right reasons with the right people. And that sounds easy to say. And then it's really tough. And you only really start to understand who you are when you face impossible questions or difficult questions. And I'll tell you one of those early on. We had one of the two major sugary water companies get a hold of us and ask us to help them increase sales. At the time, New Brunswick was leading the charge on obesity rates. A good chunk of that is as a result of the volume of sugary water that people consume. Was that really, if we help that sales team get better, is that really living up to doing this for the right? I mean, and that's not to discriminate against people who want to have one. I don't have any judgment against that. You want to drink a sugary water beverage, that's totally your call. But where for us it crossed the line is they're allowed to start marketing to people around I can't remember if it's 12 or 14, but yep. You know, the brain doesn't fully develop until 25. Yep. Legally, you're not allowed to vote until 18 or 19, depending on where you are. Mm-hmm. So we just, and you can see the confusion even in going, you make a statement that seems clean and crisp, but then you have to navigate a very large contract that was put in front of us to help a sales team. And you go, wait a minute, that's going to violate why we started this thing. Or is it? Or does it? And then you go into this weird human rationalization. Richard Feynman is famous for saying this. You know, the number one rule in life is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. Right? And so if I go back to, and people on their own will rationalize things and they'll find a way to do it, but good teams won't let you do that. Right? Yeah. Ernest Hemingway called his editors the built-in shockproof shit detectors. And you need that, so that you don't violate your own principles as you go through this. So that's a long-winded way of saying we know why we exist. We know where we can have the biggest value, and that guided everything. You know, people talk about starting with why. That's where we went. And we said, why are we doing this? And then with our skills, how can we help? And that's what drove it.
Mm-hmm. That's phenomenal. Thank you so much for sharing the kind of background to Symplicity Designs and your why.
That's great. Would you be able to let us know, we already got what you are doing for the community, which is huge. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you're asking in return from the community?
So we asked two things. Number one, if you've benefited directly or indirectly from the work that we've done, please find a way to pay it forward. And so in all of our webinars, we ask people to make a donation to the IWK Foundation. And the reason behind that was that we feared that if the worst happened, that kids and women would be displaced from hospital beds in favor of the sick, and the only place they'd be able to go would be the IWK Foundation. And so we asked people to make a donation there. The second thing is a newer ask, and that is, it is time to think about how you are running your business, and this is the reset point. And so what are you as a business owner doing to reset and become more resilient in the wake of this? And how do you find the people who are going to help you on that journey? Because none of us can do it alone, and to think you are doing it alone, you're just lying to yourself. So look in the mirror, and then how are you going to find your board of directors to help you? Because Atlantic Canada needs more businesses that are bigger. More businesses doing the right thing that are bigger. We need it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we lose the brain power, right? Not everybody's built to be an entrepreneur. So need more businesses that scale. So what can you do to reset, become more resilient, and scale? And go do that, please.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is a great time to do that reset right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
You've been given it on a gift. It's a silver platter, right?
Exactly.
Yes. And Matt, you said a few things kind of dripped throughout our time with us today. Forward thinking, 16 to 18 months, reset. So based on your experiences, especially in the past couple months, what, if you had to look at your crystal ball, what do you envision in the next 16 to 18 month mark, and what small and mid-sized businesses should be doing in and around there?
Yeah, so we've studied this deeply because of the vast array of businesses we work with. And here's what you're going to run into. You're going to have to prepare your business to be able to survive in the shelter in place economy. Then it's going to have to be able to survive in the uncertain low touch economy. And then it needs to understand what it's going to be like in, I'll call it the next normal. And the reason why I'm calling it the next normal and not the new normal is this. As we travel over the next 9 to 36 months, depending on when we get a vaccine and get it out to everybody, customer buying habits are going to change dramatically. And you're not going to go back to the same buying habits that we had before. So you not only have to survive today for today in uncertain times, you also have to follow what your buyers are about to do. And we're going to see trends speed up, and we're going to see trends that were happening pre-COVID that are going to become the norm post-COVID. So I highly doubt as a restaurant, you're going to be able to survive without a delivery service. And by the way, some of us have gotten used to that 3/4 cooked meal that is a delivery service. And I'm still going to want that So now I've made your business infinitely harder. It's like when the ebook came along, everybody said that's the end of the book. Not at all. In fact, book sales have never been higher. The problem is they're through different mediums, and there are different power brokers now, right? I listen to some, I download some on my digital devices, and some I still want to touch the paper. So I'm actually spending more, and I have some books in all three forms because of the way I consume information. So you're following your customer to the next normal and their new buying habits is going to take a depth of understanding that I hope people keep their eyes on it. Mm-hmm. Right? And to do that, here's the thing. What problem do you solve? What is the value of solving that problem? How is that value changing in the shelter-in-place economy, the low-touch economy, and what's most certainly going to be some sort of new version of it 1 to 3 years from now?
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. You've really connected it for us. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. It's good fun. Gotta be.
So Matt, we always ask all of our participants for a nominee. Who would you like to nominate for the Elevate Business Challenge?
You know what? Mike Casey at Finbars. And the reason why is, I said we talked about it before we came on live. Restaurants are going to have to figure it out. Irish pubs that had part of their charm of sitting on top of one another have really got to figure it out. And he has. He did a wonderful job of stopping, sorting out how to connect with his tribe. And now he's playing in this game of some people want to come and some don't. And so I think he's really a testament to the resiliency we have among some of the more forward-thinking restaurant owners.
That's fantastic. We're really excited to get some more information about Mike and Finbars after we jump offline here.
It'll be great to interview him.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Matt, for joining us today. And we thank all of our viewers as well for Elevate Business Challenge. And if you're looking to catch up with more of our episodes, make sure that you join our group Elevate Business Challenge on Facebook, or you can follow Intuitive Performance or Nearby Planet VR on LinkedIn and YouTube, of course. Thank you very much, everyone. Be well.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.